Alright, it's time to rank another soundtrack, and this time I'm going to be doing Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1. Now, I normally rank stage themes, and like the first Resident Evil ranking, this one is similar in the fact that it doesn't have levels or stages. So I'm going to be going by the same criteria of ranking only the songs that play when you're in a room and it's not triggered by a specific event. So like when the liquor appears or a boss fights, shit like that, those songs will not be included in the ranking. It's just the room themes. I didn't include any where you're outside and there's wind and no music, that kind of shit. Just the background noise, ambiance, those did not get included. The one that I did include that was borderline was the Escape from the Laboratory theme, which does kick in when you, toward the end of the game. It's an event-triggered song, but it does play all throughout the rest of the lab, so it kind of takes over as the new song that encompasses those rooms. So I juggled with whether or not to include it, and I decided, it fits, I will include it. So after all that, there are 17 songs to rank in this soundtrack. As far as titles go, I saw several track listings that had names for all these pieces, and it seemed fairly consistent, so I'm going with the title, and I'll also list off what rooms that they're mainly found in. I'll preface this like I normally do by saying that this list is just strictly my opinion. It's completely subjective. If you disagree with it, that's fine. Leave comments, voice your opinions. I encourage discussion and debate. Just respect my opinion and everybody else's who says what they want to say. So without any further ado, let's get on with the list. Number 17, Sewer Basement 2. I don't know if this one has an official title because it wasn't included anywhere that I saw the soundtrack posted. So I'm just calling it Sewer B2 because that's the room that you're technically in. It plays in only a couple of rooms right before the shuttle at the end of the sewer, and there's not a lot to speak about it. It's just an ambient track with some industrial noises. Cool sounds, but, not much going on. Number 16, This Is My Nest. This song only plays in the computer room with the giant moth, hence the nest reference in the title. A very ominous ambient track with cool sound effects, but kind of like the sewer, not a lot's happening. Number 15, The Basement of Police Station. Another ambient one, but this one's a lot scarier, and at least there are some actual notes played this time. But similar to the other two, there's not much worth mentioning. It's just a cool little mood piece. Number 14, Drove the Passengers to the Living Dead. You only hear this song on the bus in Raccoon City. It's a nice combination of strings with 80s synth. This one also is mostly atmosphere, and while there's not a lot going on technically, I gotta say I like the way the instrumentation sounds more here than the others previously listed, even though I can understand if someone said that they felt that it was a little jarring. I would have to disagree with it. Number 13, The Second Floor. Man, this one is haunting as all fuck. I love the pitch bending shit that's going on with the strings and the weird effect that's being used on it. Aside from that, nothing much else is happening, but the way it sounds is too good to rank it any lower. Number 12, The Buildup of Suspense. Here's another one that you only hear in one room. This one is dark as shit. It's got the shrieky strings in the background with chaotic piano laid out in spurts. Then it stops suddenly and comes back in and out with the strings and piano bits. It's a nice combination of the ambient tracks that we've heard so far and the more arranged stuff that's coming up. Number 11, The Underground Laboratory. Now we're starting to get more substance to the songs. This is a very moody piece of music here. It starts off with a dark synth pad that slowly ascends. Then just as you think it's going to keep going up, it drops back down low again. And then the strings come in to add that extra layer in. Number 10, Wreckage of the Mad Experiment. This plays when you're in the experiment room in the B scenario. And while you don't hear it for long, if you stop to listen to the track in its entirety, you'll hear there's a lot more that happens despite the minimal arrangement. It's a spacey, hypnotic tune that has its fair share of changes, and one section in particular that serves as a build-up with sweeping strings. And just as you think it's going to hit this intense new section, it just crash lands and you get some other random bits before the loop starts all over again. It's a nice use of subverting your expectations. Number 9, Left Alone. There's some cool percussion and synth bass going on in the rhythm section, but the strings that are out front are what makes this piece stand out. The tone and the pattern of the riffs reminds me a lot of the first Resident Evil Mansion themes. Simple arrangement, but very effective. Number 8, The Marshalling Yard Part 1. Very moody, but it stands out for having a mix of strings, synth pads, and electronic blippy noise bits. And usually you hear all these parts in separate sections of the song, so nothing is clashing too much. But at the same time, it's not like there are any jarring changes. It all just kind of overlaps nicely, and the song flows seamlessly between all the different sounds that are going on. Number 7, Raccoon City. You've got a marching drum, bells, and this subtle synth loop in the background. It's a cool blend of sounds. It gets intense, but at the same time feels like it's building up to something else. You don't hear this one for very long, but it's a really cool way to start off the game. Number 6, The Marshalling Yard Part 2. This one is dreary as hell, even moodier than the first Marshalling Yard song, although it does borrow elements from it in terms of the instrumentation. It's such a slow, brooding, ambient track, and I'm speaking in relation to the rest of the soundtrack. I know there's not a lot of up-tempo stuff here. I really like when the accompaniment all stops and this bell type of a tone plays a simple 2-note descending riff. It just makes the whole thing sound like there's even more desperation. Number 5, Library. It's such a shame you only hear this in one room, and it's kind of weird that this room has its own theme while it's on the second floor of the police station, which has its own theme for the rest of the floor, but here we are. The strings make up the atmosphere while a piano comes in with some accents. It's a simple little formula, but it works really well. Number 4, The First Floor. The strings are a very simple progression of long, sustained notes, but there's scattered piano and percussion accents that get dropped in there. It's similar to the library, but it's slower, and some of the piano bits are like a nice little pattern, and then sometimes it sounds like a cat is running across the keys. It's quite the blend of chaos and precision, on top of the backtrack that's slow and ominous. Very cool stuff. Number 3, The Front Hall. This is such a great mix of synthesizers with orchestral sounds. There's a synth pad in the background with some eerie synth pad chords playing over it, and then every now and again you'll get some strings, piano, and horns just fluttering around in there that fill up the gaps. But at the same time, there's still a lot of space. It's very nicely crafted. Number 2, Escape from Laboratory. There's such an urgency here, which of course makes sense because it's the fucking escape theme. Everything is just layered perfectly. The up-tempo synth bass keeping the pulse, the strings have a steady progression with very satisfying notes, and the crashing percussion keeps the chaotic nature of the situation at the forefront. Just like the rest of the soundtrack, it's perfectly scored to the specific event of the game. And number 1, Secure Place. It's just a 4-measure loop of the same riffs with moderate variations, but it might seriously be my favorite 4-measure loop of the same riffs with moderate variations in the history of video game music. It's by far my favorite save room theme in the Resident Evil franchise, and despite its short length, I could listen to it on a loop for hours, and that's not hyperbole. It's crazy how it's so ominous, while at the same time still feeling safe, if that makes any sense. Like, it feels like you're safe, but you're only in a safe space within all the danger around it, and it's inevitable that you have to go back out there, which is entirely accurate to the situation. Those piano accents are what puts this piece of music on a whole other level. Especially on the third measure of the loop where the low chord comes hammering in. That's just fucking awesome. So that's it for this soundtrack. Here's a quick recap. Number 17, Sewer Basement 2. Number 16, This Is My Nest. Number 15, The Basement of Police Station. Number 14, Drove the Passengers to the Living Dead. Number 13, The Second Floor. Number 12, The Buildup of Suspense. Number 11, The Underground Laboratory. Number 10, Wreckage of the Mad Experiment. Number 9, Left Alone. Number 8, The Marshalling Yard Part 1. Number 7, Raccoon City. Number 6, The Marshalling Yard Part 2. Number 5, Library. Number 4, The First Floor. Number 3, The Front Hall. Number 2, Escape from Laboratory. And number 1, Secure Place. So that's it for Resident Evil 2. What did you think of the list? What are your rankings? What did you agree with, disagree with? Feel free to leave those in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.